Hi, I'm Mark Honeybone with the New Zealand Property Podcast and video series brought to you by Harcourts Property Ventures. This is a podcast series all about property and anything about property, where I go out and interview the property expert around New Zealand. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, welcome to the New Zealand one and only property and video podcast. Here we have today Mark Honeybone, and I'm replacing Mark Honeybone as the host of this show today. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Hadar. It's different way than we normally do it, and you've been on my side a few times, and this is the first time on that side of the camera. So yeah, great stuff.
Awesome, Mark. Well, to start with today, we really want to talk to you about property ventures. And since we've done the last podcast, there were a few changes with the property ventures. So please share with us what's changed, what's going on now. We'll be looking forward to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Hadar. Obviously, as most people know, we've changed property ventures and our Harcourts property ventures. We used to be New Zealand wide. We had a couple of people leave our business early last year that were outside of Auckland. And so what that did was it made us rethink about how we could do business. And we decided, let's just be a great time to just centre property ventures in Auckland only. And I've become sales manager and the owner, running the business sort of thing. And then we got approached by another company to take us over and buy us out. And I thought that wasn't actually such a good idea. And then happened to have a meeting with the owner of, or that's not the owner, sorry, the CEO of Harcourts New Zealand, who I know well. And cut a long story short, in October we joined them. What's been, I'll just talk briefly about the Harcourts and why it's been so good for us as a company, as a small company that we are there at Alexandra Park. We thought we had a pretty good way to sell property anyway. We went out to the market, normal real estate agencies go to. We have tens of thousands of investors that don't know your place is on the market until we tell them. True story. And we thought that was pretty good, which it is. And we've still got that, obviously. The great thing about Harcourts is the agents and officers all work really well together. If we've got a property, we often will get someone from another Harcourts office in Auckland, will bring their buyer to us. The agents actually paid very well to do that. So there's an incentive for them to bring buyers to us and vice versa with our buyers to their property. And it works really well, and everyone has got the buy-in in Harcourts in the Auckland region, which is really cool. So that's pretty cool. And Harcourts are the largest and most trusted brand in New Zealand for the last 11 years. That's really important when you're talking to vendors. And then just recently, what's happened because of the Harcourt shift, Crocker's Realty in Auckland, obviously very, very big with Body Corp and the biggest privately owned landlord in New Zealand for property management, have finished with the sales arm of Crocker's, and the sales arm have joined our team at Harcourts Property Ventures. So we've got 4 extremely experienced agents there. We get all sorts of different properties now, from opportunities down in Bay of Plenty to cheap and very good secondhand properties in the centre of Auckland and others. So that's been it's been great for our business, great for our team. And what I like about that is we've got more property to sell. So people should be watching us, but also we've now got an extra 4,000 landlords that we didn't have that can buy our property we have. So we have changed a great deal. We're joined being at Alexandra Park. We're helping Bulgaris out with 360 apartments being sold at Alexandra Park, the next stage from where we are. And so, we're pretty excited on what we're doing and where we're going.
That's awesome, Mark. And, I visited you a few months ago in the office in Alexandra Park. I met the team. I've been actually to what we call the meet huddle, the team huddle, when you meet with the team every morning and you discuss the strategy for the week and the month and even the day. And I was really impressed. So you got a great team out there. And of course, I think that now with the Crocker team and the general situation that Property Venture is in now, it's really enhanced the service and the opportunities for buyers and sellers to receive an extraordinary service. So that's really exciting, Mark. And I look forward to meeting you as well on the coming weekend when I'm going to be visiting Auckland again.
Can't wait. Can't wait for that.
Absolutely. So, Mark, we are now in the cycle, if you like. We're not in the hype of the cycle that we've been over the last 3 to 4 years. COVID was a little bit of an anomaly. It was different. It created a rush for people to actually invest in real estate. A lot of people had a lot of money in their pockets, burning in their pockets because of COVID. They didn't go on vacation. They didn't spend a lot of money going out and going on holidays overseas. And that really created a strong demand in the market, and prices really gone upwards significantly. So what do you think is going on in the Auckland market right now? What are you seeing in the market? What is happening in the property market in Auckland? And have we reached the bottom yet? Because obviously we had a bit of a softening in the market over the last few months since interest rates starting to go up. But where are we now in the market, Mark? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, well, it's been very public, this whole cycle of the last year and a half, since December, year and a half ago, when the triple CFA rules come in. That sort of killed the market right at that point. In fact, exactly the same time, a couple of people left our business, but that was okay. Didn't help at all. And just for example, I remember that in December, we had 6 off-the-build sale and purchase agreements. They all fell over in December a year and a half ago. So that was the start of the property market when people couldn't get any finance. There's a whole lot of other reasons I'll talk about later on, sort of in this conversation. But I called it where we are now as sort of a readjustment. Some parts of New Zealand went up 40% in 2 years. Auckland went up pretty close to that. Auckland's gone down about 19% in the last just over 12 months. So if you had a place worth $1 million, it's now worth 820,000. That's really hard for owners to realise, but that's the reality of it. And it's not doing a really good sell here. But if someone comes in that bought a year and a half ago, we've actually got to say to them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, how much are you prepared to lose? Because that's just where the market is right now. We'll do the best we can to promote and sell and get the best price we can by various methods. But that's where the market is. And is it at the bottom and near the bottom? I think so. And I think it's, as I say, it's a readjustment period. I think we're getting back to, the market goes like that slowly, about 6%, 7% every year. When it goes like that, it's got to come back down and meet that cycle going, that trend going back. So I think we are getting pretty close to it. There's a lot of other factors. It's quite unusual now. We've had in the last 5 or 6 weeks, many buyers come back in the market. We've had multi-offers. We've had backup offers. These are foreign words in the last 18 months. But that's happening a lot. But there's still not a lot of property coming on the market. And the reasons for that I'll discuss afterwards rather than saying it again twice. But so you think the prices might start going up, but they're not. The good thing, I listened to the CEO of Harcourts about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it almost happened that same day. He was saying the previous 12 months in New Zealand, there was 50,000 sales in New Zealand. The average is between sort of 80 and 120,000 sales. 2 in the last 6 years have had 150,000 sales. We were 54,000 sales last year. So what he was saying is 50,000 sales isn't sustainable for New Zealand property. Meaning, going back to COVID, like you said before, nothing happened for 3 months. We had all those buyers and vendors needed to sell and buy, plus we had another 3 months worth, and it went crazy, right? Went really crazy back then. So what we've got now is we have these two, there's enough deaths, births, people shifting home, for kids leaving, for new jobs, whatever. 50,000 sales isn't enough. So what that's saying is there's people holding off selling, which there is, and there's various reasons for that, is bright line rules and because the market's low, people don't want to list right now, and of course people haven't been able to get lending, and of course interest rates have gone up, but people can get lending now easier than they could when those triple CFA rules were rampant. So we are seeing, it was almost the day I heard that story, it started getting better as far as buyers go. Obviously, there's a long way to go. Do I think it's going to go like COVID? No. Do I think it's going to race up in a hurry? Probably not. But who knows? The market's a funny thing, and government policies affect our market really greatly. More so now, the old 7 to 10 year cycle, that property cycle that you and me know very, very well. Government policies and activities like the COVID, unexpected things really affect the market more now than ever in the last 50 years, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mark. It's really good information. I think that generally we're seeing that when there's a little bit of a more calm, if you like, demand for real estate as a whole, and there is a lack of stock coming up. So that's actually holding the market to stabilize a bit more, because there is basically not enough supply to flood the market and create more of a downward pressure. So I think, like you said, it does seem like we are reaching a point when it's going to stabilize, which is it took a while, but it's good to see.
Yeah, it's unusual. You think there'll be more listings on at the moment, but it still comes down to affordability. That's what's holding the prices down at the moment. We're still haven't quite caught up to where we were. That's getting remarkably close to it. But that's still why now the prices should be lifting right now, but they can't, because affordability is not there, and banks are still very cautious.
Yeah, banks are getting better. I mean, I just was able to refinance a loan which I had, and my interest rates were going up from 3.4% to 9.75%, and then I try and negotiate with that lender, and they reduced it to 9.5%. But I was able to refinance the property to 7.5%. So I'm pretty happy about that, and definitely I think that there is more flexibility with the banks now, and that's a good sign. I do want to ask you an interesting question, Mark. So in this hard market to operate in, as in property, how do you feel about operating as an agent in today's market?
Yeah, good question. And this is some agents are hurting, because it has been really hard to list in the last, to sell in the last 18 months. Right now, it's I love this time of the market. This is the best part of the market for an agent, if they know what they're doing. This is when the skills come out from the top tier of agents, and great agents would excel because they use negotiation skills, and I've taught the RP people how to negotiate and what have you. This is when, if you're a good negotiator, this is when as an agent you do really well, because it's in a market like that, when it's going up like it was a year and a half, 3 years ago, agents thought they were pretty awesome, traders thought they were pretty awesome because they couldn't help but if they had a listing that was going to sell, as far as an agent goes. So yeah, it's pretty easy going down. When you know buyers are there, it's people really do struggle, and that's hard. But we're not there now. Buyers are back. So now it's negotiating. When I mean negotiating, it's telling the truth. I think as an agent now, it's never been easier to do a CMA on a property. It's never been easier to see what a property is worth. And all you have to do as an agent is tell the truth. And people buy listings and stuff. If any agents are out there buying listings at the moment, they're not going to sell the property. So they're just setting themselves up for a failure in 3 months, and another agent coming along and telling the truth and selling the property. Simple as that. And I know I'm pretty down to earth sometimes with what I say, but that's the way it is. And yes. So that side of it's good. And what you should be able to do as an agent is have your CMA you gave the vendors. You should be able to give that same CMA to your buyers, and that's what it is. That's what it's worth. Of course, there's been so few sales up to 2 months, or up to a month and a half ago. There have been so few sales the previous 3 months before that. It was amazing. We're looking at stats where there've been in some suburbs in Auckland, there've been 200 sales in the last year, but only 20 in the last quarter. I mean, that's insane. But that's where it was. So it's great now that that's actually moving, and there are sales happening. But because there's those sales, it's really easy to see what a place is worth right now. So it's not negotiation, it's just telling the truth. And also as an agent, knowing the market, and of course, as I always talk about when I teach negotiation, is the more educated, the stronger you are in a negotiation, because you've actually got the education and you know where the market is and what have you. So I love this time of the market as an agent. Some newer agents might struggle a little bit because they want to buy the listing. It's just, if you buy a listing now, it's the wrong time of the market to do it. completely different. So yeah, great time on the market as an agent, in my opinion, and it will probably stay like this for the next year or two.
Thank you. Mark, this is really a very good point. I mean, a lot of real estate agents go and talk to the vendors, if you like, the sellers, and they give them high expectations just to go and get the listing. But what happens with that, especially if they overpromise, or if they try and fight the owner's needs, because a lot of sellers, especially home buyers and sellers, not investors, they have very high expectations. Because it could be an emotional feeling that they have to the house that they own for many years, a family home, or maybe they need a certain amount to clear up to move up to the next home or the next investment in that case. And when they set up expectations where they're not realistic, then they're just setting themselves out to fail. And I've seen it over and over again over the last 20 years in real estate, and that's what happened. So often when we buy property, which is my company, when we buy sometime from home buyers, and more often than not, we actually end up not buying the property because there's not enough meat on the bone for us to add value or renovate or something like that. So more often than not, we refer it to you, Mark. And the reason you're so successful, you and your team are so successful with listing and selling, is because those sellers, apart from you guys being a great agents and saying the truth and laying the expectation on the table, those sellers already been through an agent that was perhaps giving them false expectations. And we've seen it over the last few years, how you guys are able to really take the property and cross the line, and in terms of the finish line with a marketing package and selling. And that's really, 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 really great.
Yeah, one of the things you just said before is some of the vendors, I'll ask them, why they want their price on. I need $1.1 million. Why do you need 1.1? Because that's what I need to pay this, and get them my next home. Well, okay, you need 1.1, but that's not comparable with what your house is. There's two different conversations you have here. You would like 1.1, but your house is worth, might be 1.2, but it might be worth 900. And it's sometimes bigger gaps than that. So I hate to say out there, vendors, what you need or want, and sometimes what you're probably worth are two different things. And that's just me being harsh and telling the truth. And we do that, obviously, with stats. So we don't even, I've taught my agents now not to give their opinion, because the facts tell the story right now. It's different when it's the markets. When we're talking about the market right now, you just show them the facts, and that's what the story is. So we don't have to say anything. We just have to say how we're going to be better than the others, and the marketing packages and all the other good bits that come with a good real estate agency.
Yeah, you're certainly doing a great job, Mark. And one more thing as well is that we've seen, and we see it in any downturn, if you like, a lot of agents that been in the market for a few years, and they only operated in an up market or in a strong market. They basically quit being agents once the market is getting tough. And what I like about you and your business and your team is that you're actually in any phase of the cycle, you're giving it everything you can, and even now you're doubling up on your efforts and your marketing and everything else, and you're really pushing forward to grow the business and have a good presence in the market. So that's really good, Mark. I'm really
thanks for that. That's good. And well, I just come back from the Harcourts conference last week in Christchurch, and apart from a great conference and meeting a lot of people, it was good. What I like is about we're trying to be on the leading edge of social media and digital, and digital is really important. We're the number one from. There's not a great deal between us and the next company. It's a big gap between the next company after that. But we're really, I was amazed with the emphasis on digital, and I've come back with a whole lot of plans for our agents to go and do what we're doing, because you have to be. It's all about the most buyers you can get to your property, you get the best price, and that's always been that. But there's different ways of doing that now than 5 years ago.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Those strategies are very important. It's all about eyeballs. You want to have the eyeballs and get the foot traffic through the open homes, which makes a big difference. So, Mark, I want to ask you a question that it could be very interesting to some of our investors, specifically on the show. And just on a nutshell and briefly, what impact did you see from the some of those opportunities that investors might have with the houses that were flooded in the flooding that we had in Auckland, and is there's opportunities to pick up some good investments opportunities from people paid out from the insurance, and they can sell the property a bit cheaper, so you can get in and maybe renovate and improve the property. Same like we had in Christchurch after the earthquake kind of situation. Give us a bit of an opinion on that, because that's something that could be very interesting to the listeners.
And very similar to Christchurch in a way, and similar but different in many ways though. And we've just sold a place that, in fact, a great stock standard traditional investor way of doing things, how I used to like doing things about one of my best deals about 15 years ago. Someone come in last week, the house, they've got their payout, or the payouts coming to the owner of the property, the vendor, the purchase coming in. They've taken the price off that. They've negotiated a price, and which we did through an auction campaign, sold the next day after it, auction. They've gone in there and they haven't actually settled it for 2 more weeks, and they're redoing the whole property. And they're back in. They're actually going to keep that property, but when they're going to keep their property for the Bright Line rules, and when that finishes, they might look at, so that we're talking 5 or 10 years from now. But they, the agent just went in yesterday and said, I don't believe how great it looks. So we're getting more, and because of that, we're getting that one property, we're getting a few more. So there are opportunities out there right now that's taking time to happen, because a lot of people panicked, I think, straight after the flood and said, I'll sell my house, but no one knew what a red sticker, yellow sticker was, and how it impacted people. And of course, insurance hadn't even looked at the property. But a bit like the earthquakes, that's happening now, where people have got their payout promise, and then they're selling their property for a cheaper price. I guess the hardest, what's different between the earthquake and the flooding is, you'd like to think an earthquake's not going to happen again for another 100 or 200 years, something like, Hawke's Bay was 100 years ago, the West Coast, and then Christchurch 7 or 10 or 12, whatever it was, years ago. The floods, unfortunately, can happen again and again. And of course, once a flood happens, it's not a 100-year flood anymore. It can, next time there's a flood, a big rainfall, there's a chance. And I know some houses that have just been redone and were flooded again, not badly, but were flooded again just a couple of weeks ago when the last big rainfall happened. So what I'm trying to say about that is, as an investor, it's hard as a vendor, for any vendors listening here, but as an investor, if you are going to buy one of them, you have to take into account that house, if it's flooded, will now be in a flood zone. It wasn't before the 27th of January. It is now on the limb, and that will straight away lower the price of that property. And vendors don't like hearing that, but unfortunately, their land value has gone down since that first flood in the end of January. And so the purchaser has to come along, take that into account before they do how much they're going to spend, and are they going to make some money. But there's still a whole lot of reasons why they can or they can't. What I'd be doing is trying to find out where the water comes from, and also trying to avoid that happening again, I guess. So do something about it. So if it does happen again, insurance comes back, at least you can say, actually, I spent whatever, $10,000 on a retaining wall or whatever it might be. So yes, that's my call there. There are opportunities. There's not as many as there were as Christchurch straight away, but this is quite a long process, and we're still in the early stages of it. Yes.
Well, it's a certainly interesting thing to keep an eye on, and of course, investors and home buyers needs to be prudent and check the GIS mapping and report to see where the floodplains and all of that. So that's very interesting. Mark, I do have the last question for you here, which is very interesting. I hear in the news about not having enough rentals in the marketplace. We hear that and we think, hey, what's going on? And are investors still buying, considering that? What are you actually seeing on that spec? Because we hear it in the news a lot about the rentals.
Have you got 4 hours, Hadar? I can go on and on about this. I was going to do a video 2 years ago when the Auckland lockdown was on. I wish I had now, because it's becoming irrelevant right as we speak. It hasn't even started yet. The trouble tenants have got getting properties, staying in motels. I don't think it's even gotten anywhere near as bad as it's going to get. And I'm quite passionate about this and the reasons why. So I'll tell a bit of a story, I guess, and why. And it comes back to, it's nice for policies be made and go, yeah, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But you've got to look at the big picture. And I only got school cert at our school, mate, and I worked this out pretty quickly that it's this the last rules, the tax deductibility was going to be the final straw. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But if you go through the last few years, as a who houses these tenants? Who houses the tenants? Obviously, the government do for some, but majority of them are done by landlords. And there's some big landlords with 100 or more properties and 50 or more properties. But mum and dad investor with 1 to 4 properties is a massive part of the properties that house these people. Anyway, so what happened? A few years ago, we started Healthy Homes. All for Healthy Homes. There were some pretty miserable places people were living, and it needed to be warm, dry. All dry is the most important thing, I think, the dryness of a home. And that did, so that's right. That happened. That added on, anywhere from sort of $5,000 to $12,000 for an average property in New Zealand for a property investor to do that. They brought that in. Then they brought the Healthy Homes, the Brightline rules in. The Brightline rules now, where if you buy a rental property, you have to hold it for 10 years, isn't it? 10 years now, I think it's gone up to, or you get taxed on it. That's one's hurt a lot of investors, and I've seen it so closely in the last few years. 2 years ago, we had just at the end of 21, we had a lot of investors come and said, I'm going to sell my property. And then they went to the accountant, who we recommend they go to their lawyer and accountant, and they go, geez, I'm going to be hit by the Brightline rules. I'm going to lose 33% of profit than I've had. And we just paid all this money for Healthy Homes, and it's not really worth doing. So I'm instead of losing 100K or 200K, I'm going to hold on for a couple of years. Unfortunately, those people have now been hurt because the price has gone down 19.1% in the last 12 months. So they've been hit incredibly hard, but that's not a part of the story. It's just an effect that's happened. So the Brightline rules, the Healthy Homes come in. It was getting hard. Investors were selling their homes anyway. And if they couldn't afford to make their home a Healthy Home as a rental, they would sell it, and the first home buyer would buy it, which was really good. All for love first home buyers buying property. It's part of the enjoyment of the job we have. But there's still nowhere else for the tenants to live. So that's all happened. And then as soon as that tax deductibility, I thought of that rule coming out, I just shook my head and I was actually disgusted to write all the time in the world, but I do a video about it because I was going to go on too much about it. What that meant is, for example, if you get your house up at Healthy Homes and it's cost you $10,000 to do, get some bats in the wall and fix a few things up and get a heat pump in there and what have you, you claim, so you've got to claim that against your wage at the end of the year. So you get sort of maybe 33% of it back. You get $3,000 bucks back. So it still costs you 10,000. You're still 7,000 down, but you'll get 3,000 back against your wage, depending on what wage you're on. Now that just kills people for not being able to have that, and it is going through a transition period. And the 1st of April this year, it's gone down to you can still claim 50% of your tax deductibility. Another year, for next financial year, it's going to be 25%, and then 2 years it will be zero, and you'll be no tax.
This year we might have a change of government, so depends who comes into the picture. This problem or this challenge, a lot of people are gonna get really hurt by that. I mean, I sat with my accountant just recently, and if you can't deduct the interest cost as an expense, suddenly when the properties are not, when you buy a property in New Zealand as a whole, they're not like they're cash flow positive day one and putting money in your pockets. The rent to price ratios are relatively slim in terms of cash flow. So, we're subsidizing the rentals, we're providing housing to people, to renters, and we're getting punished. So, and now we're taking that expense, which is the interest expense, we're going to get punished even more. So, without being political, I think that was a really bad decision, and a lot of people are going to get really hurt by that. Even me, I mean, if you own a property in Auckland, which is worth $700,000 or $800,000, and you have a mortgage on it, then your interest cost might be anything from $10,000 to $20,000 a year at least. And in that case, especially with those higher interest rates now, if you can't deduct it, it's going to be, you're going to have to put it out of pocket.
Yeah, for that decision, government just didn't even think about it. They have to realise that if someone bought a place a year ago now, they've lost if $1 million place a year ago, they've lost $190,000 because that's what the market's done. If it wasn't healthy homes compliant, it's probably costs about $15,000 to do that. There's another $15,000 they've lost. That's been money they've had to actually physically pay to hand out. Interest rates have gone from 3%, as I said for you, to 9.5%. You can probably get for 7% or so. It's gone up. So it might have cost an investor something like 30,000, well, with interest, but $40,000 this year. Why would they buy the property and have no help at all from the government to put a family of mum and dad with 3 kids and a dog in the section? Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense to invest in property anymore. And that's the major problem right now we've got. And it hasn't even started yet, in my opinion, because if things remain the same, it hasn't even started because there's more and more people. My partner now, she's a property manager. She's seen people all the time getting turned away, and people that really need the properties can't get a property. Then you chuck the floods on the 27th of January in there. Tenants got displaced. They've got nowhere to live again. Landlords who own property, owners who own property, need places for the next 12 months to live in, and longer, in 6 months. So the floods have just made it worse again. But while the tax deductibility rules are coming in, there are less people buying property. Those who've got 100 properties and they're very positive cash flow, they can handle that and do okay. So there's still investors out there, but it's a mum and dad investor, 1 to 4 properties. They're the ones who have been hurt and are selling. And why I think there's going to be the problem hasn't even started yet. Those tax deductibility rules, as soon as the market moves a little bit again, people are going to sell. As soon as the bright line rule, as soon as the bright line date comes up, they can sell it. That was also a transition of a few years. So some could be anywhere from now to 10 years when people need to sell their home or can sell their home without getting taxed. There's thousands of investors in New Zealand are selling their property when that happens, or as that happens over the next 2 or 3 years. So, and if they're being sold to private owners, where are the tenants going to live? That's the biggest problem I see in New Zealand economy for the next 5 years. I called it 2 years ago, but it's got worse. It's getting worse, and the floods don't help also. So that's why when you hear people in Rotorua and the motels and everyone getting owners getting brassed off with people next door, that's sad. Seeing people in the streets that are living. I was on the bottom of Queen Street a week ago, and there are about 15 homeless people. It was like a wee hotel right on the bottom of Queen Street on the side of the road. It was and they're all over, they're everywhere, and not just Auckland. Every city you go to, Tauranga, Christchurch, or anywhere. And that's only going to get worse. We hear stories every day now of people in cars and infants in cars, living in a car. That was a huge headline 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now you're hearing it all the time. So as I said, I could talk about this topic. I'm quite passionate about it because it's such a bad thing. Yes. So who at the end of this year, could be change of government. It might not be. Who knows? But things need to change. If they remain as they are right now, as far as the bright line rules, the tax deductibility, the healthy homes, all these other rules, there's going to be nowhere for tenants to live, and the rents are going to go high. I know the rents have gone up in some cases $100, anywhere from $50 to $150 in the last sort of 6 or 8 months in Auckland. That's just insane. When the government are trying to help the tenants, the tenants to get property and to have a property. One, there's no property, and second, they can't afford it. So
Our operating costs have gone up through higher interest rates, but also through inflation in general. Things cost more to maintain. But also with not being able to deduct the interest rate, it creates a higher cost of operation. Because being a real estate investor, if you want to do a good job out of it, you really need to treat it like a business. So it is a business, and that's what it's unfair that the government took the draconian approach to actually prevent deductibility of the interest rate. But Mark, I want to finish the show on a positive note. Apart from hoping for a change on that particular point, there are opportunities when you can buy real estate, whether it's and that you can deduct the interest, or if you rent the properties I think community housing, and also if you buy a commercial real estate, which typically yields even a better returns. So there are still opportunities in real estate. We love real estate, and
new builds also.
Yeah, new constructions. So we really think that real estate is still the best if you want investment, specifically in my personal view. We're focusing on passive income and generational wealth building, and I personally cannot see any investment or asset that we can buy, we can control, and we can add value to within a relatively short time frame, and set ourselves and our families for success.
Yeah, no, well finished off there, and along with all that, setting your families up for success in the future, you're also providing one of the biggest needs New Zealand need right now, which is housing tenants. So if you can afford you're looking to be an investor, or you're an investor, you're doing one of the most important jobs in New Zealand right now, despite what some of the government people might say. That's the truth of it. And I think they're starting to realise that as well. So it's a great business to be involved in, and just great to have you as the host. I might have to sack myself and bring you on the host more often, mate.
Thank you. I love to. Always happy to talk shop and real estate. So Mark, we can definitely do that. And I also want to say that I'm encouraging landlords who are listening to this show. I own some real estate here as well, and we need what needs to be done to provide healthy home and a safe environment and warm home for those residents. For them, it's their home. So we want to provide insulation. We want to provide the heating that is required. Whatever is needed to provide them a nice home. New Zealand home, generally over the last 30, 40 years, 50 years, a lot of the homes in New Zealand were cold. When I came to New Zealand 20 years ago, I wasn't accustomed to seeing all those weatherboard houses with really thin windows and very low insulations. So the houses do need it, and I want to encourage landlords that listen to this show to make the investment. And if you're using a third-party property management, or if you're not, get a few quotes, get it done, because we want to provide a good service to our residents. It's a business, and it's very important.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you very much, Hadar, for being host, and I'll finish it off if I can, and I'll encourage you all to come back and keep watching the New Zealand Property Podcast and video series. We have got a very special guest, a guy by the name of Hadar Orkibi. We're going to swap roles, and it's great to be here, and great to for me to voice my opinion rather than ask all the questions for a change. And I look forward to seeing you all next time round, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.